Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. Genin of Konoha. Student of Jiraiya of the Sannin. Number 1 Unpredictable Ninja of the Leaf. Student of Kakashi of the Sharingan. Naruto and Jiraiya were on the training trip and he had just turned 15. The pair had just raided an old temple, library on the Suna-Konoha border. They had claimed many scrolls and books. Naruto had found one that had caught his eye and wanted to read it while they walked to their next destination. Naruto looked at the title of the book and said, "The Record of the Four Holy Weapons." This book starts in another world with an apocalyptic prophecy. It tells about waves of catastrophe. Jiraiya chuckled and said, "Sounds interesting. Keep reading. You need to keep up your studies and the script looks a little on the old side and this will help with your reading ability." Naruto shrugs and continues to narrate the book to Jiraiya. To stave off the waves, the people this world will call upon heroes from other worlds. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and said, "Just so long as they don't call upon you. We need you here." Naruto laughed and said, "It's only a book. It's not like it's really going to happen. Well anyways. Sword hero, seems like an annoying guy, but okay. Bow hero, sort of a hero complex. Spear hero, man what an idiot, this princess sounds like a real evil one." Jiraiya chuckles and says, "The second vice of the shinobi, women. Watch out for them. If they come on too strong, be very careful and keep them under constant watch. For they will be nothing but trouble. Sort of like that girl you left in the village." Naruto looked at his sensei with an annoyed look. Being only 15 years old and not really understanding girls, he shrugged his shoulders and then set down the book. He finished packing up the camp and gathering up the supplies into the packs. Both men then began to set off towards their next destination. He then picked up his book and began to read again. The last hero, shield hero. A shield? That isn't even a weapon. Jiraiya chuckled and said, "There are some stories of shields being weapons, but they are few and far between." Naruto then continued, "Hey, wait a minute, why are the pages blank?" Jiraiya looks at Naruto and quickly grabs him as the boy begins to glow. He then looks into his eyes and says, "You're being summoned." Naruto nodded, as they continued down a lit tunnel. "When we get there, I'm going to disappear. I'll contact you within a day." Naruto nodded, as the tunnel appeared to end. Naruto appeared on a summoning circle in a crouch. He noticed 3 others and Jiraiya missing in the circle. He also noticed the others had weapons, specifically a sword, bow, and a spear, while he had a shield on his right arm. He then noticed several acolytes and one exclaimed, "O saint heroes of old! Please help save our world." The boy with dark hair and the sword replied, "Forget it." The boy with blonde hair and the bow also replied, "I also refuse." The one with the spear said authoritatively, "You can send us back to our home world, right? Do that and maybe we'll talk." Naruto watched and kept quiet. The one possessing the sword pointed at the priests and exclaimed, "You brought the 4 of us here without our consent. Don't you even feel the least bit guilty about it?" The bow wielder then continued, "Not to mention if we do all that work to restore peace and you throw us out. We'd have done all that work for nothing." The spear guy asked, "How willing are you to accommodate our requests? Depending on your answer, we may end up as your enemies rather than your allies." Naruto scowled, but looked between the 2 groups. He understood the demands of the heroes. As a shinobi, he understood about being paid for his work, but also wanted to do the right thing. The priest smiled and replied, "Good sirs, before I say any more, I would like you to have an audience with the king of Melmormark. You can negotiate your rewards with him directly. So please." The sword hero lowered his sword and replied, "Fine." The bow hero continued, "I suppose we will consider their offer." The spear hero continued, "Sure, it doesn't matter who we talk to, our demands won't change." The 3 began to leave the room. Naruto did several hand signals and left the room knowing that Jiraiya got the message. As they continued through the castle, the boys commented about it being a different world. Naruto kept quiet, but noticed that the air had changed and touched his shuriken, but felt a shock and saw a warning in his vision saying that the weapon was forbidden for attack purposes and only to use those of his class. He figured that he could only use shields. He thought, I hope I can use jutsu. Since shuriken and kunai are out of the question, I might be able to use them in traps though. He continued to follow the group into a chamber filled with guards in unusual armor and clothing that he didn't recognize. At the end of the chamber was a man sitting in one of two chairs wearing opulent clothing and jewelry. Naruto noticed the quick look of anger that flashed across the man's face when he looked at him, but Naruto didn't react. The man began to speak, so you four young men are the four cardinal heroes of legend. This is the land of Melmormark, and I am her king, Altcray Melmormark the 32. Welcome brave heroes. Please identify yourselves. The sword hero steps forward and says boldly, Ren Amaki, I'm a high school student and I'm 16 years old. The spear hero steps forward and says, I'm Motoyasu Kitamura, college student, 21. The bow hero sighs and responds, I suppose I'm up next. Itsuki Kawasumi, still in high school and I'm 17. Naruto steps forward, but the king speaks, good, Ren, Motoyasu, and Itsuki. I'll explain why we brought you here. My beloved country of Melmormark and the entire world surrounding it are heading down the road to certain ruin. Naruto kept his mouth shut during the explanation, but glared at the king the whole time. He then found out about how this world had an old apocalyptic prophecy about waves of destruction assaulting this world. The first wave had already come, and kingdom had been assaulted by the wave of destruction. The kingdom had barely survived the wave, but through the help of adventurers and the knights of the kingdom they had survived. After a feast held in their honor, they had retired to what was Naruto's room. The others had regaled him with stories of how this world was like video game worlds from their respective worlds. Naruto had told them that his world really didn't have games like they described. He also noticed that someone was listening at the door and he smirked at this. The other three figured that they came from different versions of the same world while Naruto had come from one that was completely different. Naruto shrugged. He asked all he could about gaming systems from them and they gave little in the way of helpful information. They also called him useless since he was a shielder. He just shrugged and listened to them until they left to their own rooms. The listener had left and Jiraiya had landed on the patio. He asked, so what do you think? Jiraiya shook his head and replied, I have no clue. I can't understand anything anyone says. Naruto then says, how about joining my party? Jiraiya looked at the boy in surprise and asked, what? He then saw a message appear in front of him ask, would you like to join the Shield Heroes party? Yes, no, he looked intently at yes and decided to select yes. Suddenly Naruto's name came up and under his name with several lines below his name and his. Naruto then explained, I hate reading, but I can listen and read at the same time and the king was rather boring. We're both level 1. The red line is hit points, the blue is mana points, the green one is SP or special points, and the yellow one, CP, is chakra points. Jiraiya interrupted, wait SP. I don't have that one. Naruto sighed and replied, must be special to the heroes. Also touch the gem and then touch your throat. Jiraiya did as told. You will now understand everyone around you from this world. I've been using the help as much as I can to see what I can do. Jiraiya chuckled and smiled. He then said, I knew you were smart in there. Now how do you want to do this? Naruto sighed and replied, with how the king reacted I'm thinking that I'm going to be betrayed. Somehow, someway. I don't know this world, but they don't know that I'm better equipped than any of these clowns for combat. Even without a weapon, but it looks like I'm stuck with just the shield. I can use sharp weapons as tools, but not as weapons. So, take my shuriken and most of my kunai. Hide in the shadows and find out what you can. I know that you can do that normally, but I think that it will be helpful for both of us if you do. He then explained all he knew about this world and gave Jiraiya all the food in the room and most of the equipment in his pack. The next morning, He was guided by the woman in the yellow dress, but he noticed her gait was not that of a noble woman, but that of a trained woman, either a shinobi or a warrior. He just stored that information for later. Naruto then entered the hall with the other heroes to see a group of warriors in front of the king. The king then said, "We have gathered the greatest warriors in the land. These brave souls will fight the wave alongside you." Naruto thought to himself, will we choose them, or will they choose us? The redhead is kind of cute. At that thought the redhead smiled at him. The king continued, "Our future champions. The time has come to begin your journey." Naruto watched closely as the group of assembled adventurers walked forward and began to assemble behind the heroes. He looked behind himself and sighed. He knew this would happen. He looked at the redhead and figured watching her and 3 other girls assemble behind Motoyasu. He then thought, even if someone comes over afterwards. They initially didn't pick me. Guess I have to do it on my own like usual. Naruto shrugged and didn't say anything, since he figured it would fall on deaf ears. The king then declared, "I'm loath to admit it, but even I'm surprised that this was the outcome." Motoyasu smiled and said, "See, being a shielder is bad luck." Naruto shook his head and replied, "Nah, I'm guessing there is more to it than that." The king then said, "It has come to my attention that the shield hero has no knowledge of our world, even though the heroes are said to come to our world with innate knowledge of our world. I guess this rumor has spread and is the reason that the shield hero has no followers." Naruto shrugs and says, "I'll just have to deal with it." The redhead in the background raises her hand and says, "Sir Hero, would you kindly allow me to change parties and allow me to join the shield hero?" Motoyasu asked, "Are you sure?" She smiled and replied, "I am." Naruto noticed a falsehood in the smile, and the tone of her voice but said nothing. He also wasn't sure what she was lying about, but was sure it wasn't good. He also didn't want to show his hand, so wanted to let this play out. Since the king seemed to have it in for him for some reason. The king then asked, "Are there any others that will join Master? What is your name, hero?" Naruto turned and smiled like a fox. He then bowed and replied sarcastically, "Ah yes, you skipped me yesterday, didn't you? How rude of me not to interrupt you and introduce myself. I am Naruto Uzumaki, Genin Shinobi age 15. The king blushed at the jab and coughed. He then continued, "Yes, Master Uzumaki. Since no others will join your party, we will have to compensate you in other ways. You will have to recruit for your party for yourself. Every month we will supply the heroes the funds that they require, but this month, Master Uzumaki's payment will be higher than the others. Here are your initial war chests. Accept them with our thanks." Naruto got 800 silver coins, and the other heroes got 600 silver. They were ordered to gear up and set forth to level up. As Naruto left the castle with the girl, Motoyasu said, "Take good care of her, Naruto. You hear me?" Itsuki then said, "We can't help you directly, but at least I can wish you best of luck with your recruiting." Ren then said, "Until next time. So long." Naruto smiled and replied, "Good luck." Mine then said, "I beg your pardon, Shield Hero Sama. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mine Sophia. It's an honor to fight with you." Naruto replied, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, it's nice to meet you, Datbeo." As he scratched the back of his head, Mine held her hand forward and he took it. She then said happily, "My pleasure." Naruto noticed the mirth, but the lack of truth to the statement, but hid his reaction with a smile. He thought, she is pretty, but why is she lying to me and what is it all about? He then said, "Guess we should be going and get some equipment." She then said, "To start I'll show you around the village." The tour was on the amazing side since it was bigger than Konoha and it had all the different types of people and animals, like the riding dragons and philolales. He also noticed the use of magic in the vendors on occasion. He did look around and saw signs and noticed that he couldn't read the language. Mine then asked, "Where do you think we should visit next?" Naruto replied, "A place that sells weapons and armor." Mine became excited and exclaimed, That makes sense. With all that silver I bet that you could buy some great stuff. I'll take you to a shop I trust. They should have everything you should need. Naruto saw no deceit in her this time, so he trusted her. Might as well. He smiled and replied, Great, let on. She then exclaimed, Follow me. And then began to run off. Naruto smiled and looked at her figure as it headed off into the crowd. He then thought, well, at least she is a looker. He then followed her down the streets. They entered a shop with swords and armor all along the shop walls. She then said enthusiastically, This place gets my highest recommendation. Naruto nodded at the weapons and armor as he passed them in the shop. He then said, They look like very good quality. A man behind the counter, bald and with a beard, said, Welcome, good sir. Not your first time in a weapons shop, is it? At least you've picked the best one. Naruto shook his head and replied, No. I've been in weapons shops before, but your weapons are a little different than I'm used to. The man put his elbow on the counter and asked, How so? Naruto then took a deep breath and pulled out a shuriken and kunai. He then put them back in his pouch. He then explained, Being the shield hero, I can't use them for combat, but I can use them as utilities. Thus, I can show them to you, but not use them. If I were to pick up one of your swords and attempt to use it, it would jump out of my hands and cause a problem. My weapon is the shield. Not a great weapon, but that is what I'm stuck with. Also, she brought me here. The man looked surprised. He then said, Really? So, you're the dud. And she looks familiar. Mine replied, I've been in here before and your shop is renowned. Naruto chuckled darkly and replied, Dud huh. Well, guess I'll have to work on that. So, what type of shields and armor do you have? By the way, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The man smiled and said, Naruto, huh. If you become a regular, I won't give a care what you wield. Alright kid, good to meet you. What is your budget? Naruto held the shield up the man as he began to look at it with a monocle. He then said, At a glance it looks like any other small shield. Does it come off? Naruto shook his head, but moved it around his body. The man continued, I can sense a great amount of magic here, but my appraisal magic doesn't tell me much more. He tapped the gem on the shield. He then said, Thanks for showing me something interesting anyway. Mine replied, About 250 silver. Naruto came out in some chain mail with a frown. Mine asked, How much do you want for it? The man replied, Hero's discount 150 silver. Mine then asked, And the buyback price? The man looked surprised and replied, What? Well, let's see. If it's still in mostly new condition, I'll offer you 100 silver. Naruto nodded, understanding that some merchants would buy back items from his days a shinobi. He then said, I'll take it. The man gave the thumbs up sign and replied, Great, I'll throw in some innerwear to show my thanks. Naruto paid the man and then put the bag of coins in his pack. Mine happily asked, Where shall we go next, Hiro-sama? Off to do battle. Naruto nodded and replied, Might as well level up. They spent the next little bit moving out into the wilds outside of the castle. Mine appeared to hide behind a tree and signal that she was going to support him from there. Naruto inwardly frowned. He smiled at the girl and looked around. He then noticed several red icons appear over the grass, where he could see movement. He stood there to see what type of damage these opponents could do. Suddenly several orange balloon-like animals with mouths flew out of the grass at him and latched onto his limbs. He raised an eyebrow as he noticed a green glow around himself, but noticed no drop in his hit points or felt any damage. He then grabbed one and pulled it off and squeezed. It popped and he saw that he gained 1 experience point. He growled and then began to creatively break each of these creatures. He smashed one beneath his shield. Another he used the pointed end of his shield. He even used a little of his Kyuubi chakra to elongate his nails and slash several. He did this for several hours. While this went on, he watched Ren easily kill the same monsters with his sword, much to his annoyance. He did notice Mine kill a couple of the monsters, but she didn't accept his party invite. After this time, he gathered up all the remains of the monsters and fed it to the shield. It took the balloon parts and he saw the shield accept the offering, by adding more to the base of the shield. Finally, it added the orange small shield to his shield tree. It also gave him a +2 to defense. She then suggested going to the weapons shop to get some equipment for her, so that they could get further tomorrow. He heard something in her voice that spoke of deception, but truth, but he agreed. He followed her back to the weapons shop. He learned the man's name was Erhard. Erhard asked, "Gear for the lady? You'd be much stronger being decked out with much stronger equipment." She smiled and replied, "Right." Naruto then stood on the opposite side of the desk to Erhard and asked, "Are you much into haggling or is that going to get me into more trouble than it is worth?" Erhard began to laugh heartily and replied, "Just don't get too full of yourself and we should be fine." Naruto then said, 10% off with a 70% buyback. Erhard looked surprised at the boy and replied, "Not much the haggle then, depending on what is bought." Naruto smiled and put his hand out while Erhard took it. Naruto looked soured as Mine approached. Naruto asked, "How much for this?" Erhard sighed and replied, 480 silver with the discounts I can give you." Naruto smiled in thanks and took a breath. He then pulled the bag of silver out of his pack and paid Erhard. His frog wallet fell on the counter and some of the coins came out. Naruto picked up his wallet and gathered up his old money. He quickly put it back in his pack. He then counted out the coins for Erhard. He then said to Mine, "This will put a crimp in the budget. I hope you don't mind camping in the wilderness." Mine gasped and replied, "Tonight, Hiro-sama." Naruto shook his head and replied, "No, not tonight, but even if the balloon fragments fetch a copper per fragment, it will take a while to make up the money we are investing in you. I hope you can make it worth our while." Mine's smile faltered for a second, but she thought she wasn't caught and replied, "I'm sure we can make it up soon, Hiro-sama. The stronger I am, the more loot we can collect from monsters." "Right." She then walked up to him and pushed her into his arm. Naruto acted like this was flustering him. It was, but not in the way that Mine suspected. It caused him to be angry that she was trying to lure him with appeal, and he wasn't having it. He began to babble, but inside he was getting angry. "I have already bought your stuff," Naruto explained. He turned to Erhard and asked, "Where do I sell the fragments from monsters?" Erhard replied, "There are shops that specialize in monster goods. They'll buy most of those things off of you." Naruto smiled and replied, "Thanks." Naruto and Mine left the shop and headed to an inn. Naruto looked at the food and then at the utensils. He then asked, "How the heck am I supposed to eat with these? I'm used to using chopsticks." Mine giggled and demonstrated each of the utensils and Naruto quickly got the gist of how to use them. Just before he took a bite he said, "Thank you for this food." And clapped his hands together. He then took a bite and said, "This is rather good." Mine replied, "I'm so glad you're enjoying your meal." Naruto pulled out a map and pointed to a point on the map. He then said, "The meadow we fought in was over here, right?" Mine replied, "Yep. Tomorrow, we'll be headed to Laufin Village, which lies beyond this map, and past Laufin Village we'll find a dungeon that's fit for rookie adventurers." Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, "A dungeon?" Mine replied, "We won't make very much money either, but it's an excellent spot to work on leveling up." Naruto nodded and replied, "I see where you're going with this idea." Mine then said, "Now that I have new equipment and that I have you defending me, it should be a walk in the park." She then lifted her glass and asked, "We have all this wine, Hiro-sama. It would be a shame to let it go to waste." Naruto shook his head and replied, "I don't drink, sorry, and I advise you don't drink too much. It will cause problems tomorrow, either with a hangover or with dulled reactions." Mine looked surprised and said, "After the long day we've had and the great vintage of this wine, I would love to share it with you." Naruto was already up and walking away. He waved his hand and said, "Just take it easy on the wine. She then said, "You shouldn't turn me down." Naruto turned and looked at her like she was insane. He then asked, "Why is that?" Mine replied, "Melmormark is a matriarchy. No man from here would ever turn down a drink offered by a woman." Naruto then replied loud enough for the other patrons to hear, "Well, I'm not from here and I don't want to dull my senses. I'm sorry if I offended you, but I don't want to indulge in alcohol. It is one of the 3 sins of the shinobi and they can cause our downfall. Maybe I'll tell you about the others." Mine sighed and replied, "I look forward to it and I'll see you tomorrow." Naruto entered his room and then opened his window. He heard Motoyasu and Itsuki arguing, while Jiraiya entered in through the window. Naruto began to take off his armor. He folded in on the table. He then pulled out 100 silver coins and his spare outfit from his backpack. He handed the coins to Jiraiya and said, "I just don't trust that woman. There is something off with her. She just ignored my party invite and I just know she is up to something." Jiraiya nodded and put Naruto's pack into his pack and left the coin bag with the remaining silver coins on the table. He then said, "You expect her to double-cross you?" Naruto nodded and replied, "I just get that feeling. She outright lied to me on several occasions. Take the orange fragments to a vendor in the market and you should get about a copper for each fragment. I gave you 100 silvers and I'll keep 25 for myself, that I'll put it inside my shield." He began to put the coins under the shield over his arm. Jiraiya chuckled and said, "I noticed getting experience points while you were out. I also found a way to get more people in your party. Especially if she betrays you. It might not be moral, but there is a slave trading merchant in town, and he has quite a few slaves. I talked with him today. It appears that this kingdom is both a matriarchy and a human dominance kingdom. Meaning that we can get some slaves to fill out your party. I don't think the other heroes will like it, but we can mitigate that later, since it is legal here. We can offer freedom to the slaves after the waves are complete. I can train you and them while we are outside of the castle. I have my eye on a few. There is one that you will have to make the final decision on." Naruto smiled and asked, not giving me a clue on who it is. Jiraiya chuckled and replied, "Nope. I just hope that shield can get us both back to Konoha eventually. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night and good choice of not drinking." Naruto chuckled and replied, "I've seen you get drunk enough on our trip to know better. Especially with how she was acting. I figure she is going to pull something tonight. I more than likely am going to be robbed and blamed for something." Jiraiya frowned and said, "Still having problems with how you were treated? I know trust is hard and how Sakura played you wasn't exactly right, but you need to give a girl a chance at some point. I do agree that this isn't the girl that you should." Naruto laid down in the bed and said, "Good night, Erosenin." Jiraiya smiled and replied, "Good night, godson." He then jumped out the window. Several hours later Naruto was woken by someone entering the room. He noticed that he felt groggier than he should have. More than likely under some sort of genjutsu or spell. He smelled Mine's scent and heard his stuff being rummaged through. It sounded like she had grabbed his old clothes, the new armor, and the bag of money. After looking for more, but finding nothing, she left without disturbing Naruto anymore. Naruto went back to sleep, since he knew what had happened. He got up in the morning and pulled his original jumpsuit he had hidden under his pillow and put it on. He then put on his headband. He then decided to take off his jumpsuit and put it, headband, and kunai pouch in a seal on his leg and put on his undergarments that he got from Erhard. He looked around the room and found it empty of any of his belongings or much of anything that wasn't from the inn. He looked out the window and saw soldiers from the castle moving into the inn with spears. He sighed and walked out of his room. He walked up to one of the soldiers and said, "I've been robbed." The soldier exclaimed, "Shut up. You're under arrest." They then attempted to get his hands and take him into custody. Naruto angrily replied, "I will come, but if you attack me, I will take all of you down. Do not touch me." He then released a major amount of killing intent. Most of the soldiers fell to their knees. He then said to the man in front of him, "I've been robbed. You say I'm under arrest. I will come with you, but as the shield hero I will not be dragged through the town like a common criminal. I only have the cloths on myself and my room is empty. If you find anything in there later, I will know it is a plant and I will come after you. If you want to try and take me, I can just make you and your team go away, or, I can just come with you, your choice." The soldier grunted a response, "We accept your terms." Suddenly the pressure on the soldiers released and they rose. Some moved forward, but the man in front of Naruto shook his head and guided Naruto down to the wagon. Naruto was walked into the main chamber, while the guards kept their spears on him, but they kept their distance. Naruto looked around and asked, "So I'm brought before the king, in my underwear for a crime that I've not even been told about, and to top it off, I've been robbed." He then looked over at Mine, who appeared to be shaken and was hiding behind Motoyasu. He also noticed his chain mail armor on Motoyasu. He added it up and then said, "So how does my armor feel, Motoyasu? I sweated in it all day yesterday." Motoyasu looked confused and replied, "What do you mean, you cad? This was a gift from Mine." Naruto scowled and Mine whimpered. She then cowered even farther behind Motoyasu. He then read the room and saw the same look from all those years ago. The king finally exclaimed, "Silence, you filth." Most the room flinched, but Naruto looked defiantly at the king. Naruto growled and thought, "So this is their game. She is blaming me for something. More than likely rape or at least assault. Great. This isn't going to go well." The king then cradled his head and said, "Mine, I'm sorry to ask you this, my dear, but would you mind repeating your testimony for us again?" Mine appeared to hyperventilate and began to explain, "It happened last night. The shield hero forced his way into my room. He was stinking drunk. He grabbed me and pinned me down. He said something like, 'The night is still young.' And the next thing I knew, he was tearing all my clothes off. Somehow, I managed to get away and ran down the hall. I found Motoyasu-sama happened to be staying at the same inn. I explained it to him. Motoyasu then explained, if she hadn't had me wait until dawn to call the knights, I would have gladly cut you down myself." Naruto growled and replied, "That never happened, and even with your toothpick you wouldn't be able to beat me. I went to bed and then to sleep. I was robbed. I also don't drink. It is against shinobi rules. I would say that you're a fool, but you're a worse fool than I've ever been. My room was stripped of everything that wasn't the inn's." The king then stood and exclaimed, "To think that the Cardinal Shield hero would commit the greatest sin in this country." Naruto raised an eyebrow and asked, "You aren't even listening, Sin?" The aide replied, "In Melmormark, even attempted UAL assault is punishable by death." The king exclaimed angrily, "If you weren't a hero, you would be executed at once." Naruto's whisker marks became darker and his eyes became slits. He then exclaimed darkly, "You would execute someone on charges only. Sounds to me like there is a tribunal of fools. I need to have a liar tell the truth." Mine stuck out her tongue and pulled down her lower right eyelid. "I've been wronged and hope you figure out what is going on before you make a big mistake." Two spears cross in front of Naruto. He grabs one of the spears and beaks the pole with little effort. "I also bet you have manufactured proof, since my room was barren and without anything when I left. I'll bet your guards found something of hers. I'll bet you 20 silver. Any takers?" A guard walked in front of Naruto and bent down. He then explained, "While conducting a search of the shield hero's room we found, this strewn across his bed. He lifts a torn negligee." Naruto looked at the guard, who was sweating as if it was summer in a desert. There were gasps from around the room. Mine blushes and then screams in faux shame. Motoyasu puts his arms out to defend Mine and then exclaims, "You animal." The king then explains, "The proof seems rather undeniable." Naruto curled his fist and blood began to leak out of it. He then said, "Like I said, manufactured. Strewn. How can I sleep? Also, you and your men are such hypocrites. As I said, My room was empty of everything except for what the inn provided. I only had these undergarments. Your guards manufactured this evidence and understand what was said. And I told you what was going to happen and even placed a bet on it. I knew that you would frame me. He then pulled out the 20 silver and threw it on the ground in front of Motoyasu, except for one. Holding a single coin and then saying, "Lucky for you, I can't use this as a weapon, I would use it to bang some sense into you." He then flicked it at the spear hero. It hit the man right in the center of the forehead. The spear hero stumbled back. "You stole my stuff. Even lost a bet against me. So, I'm going to train without you. And I know. You're going to make me a pariah. Go ahead. I've been there, done that before. Blamed for something I didn't do. You guys don't know me and assume the worst, I bet. Well, too bad. I don't have anything left to bet with since they have it. You want to know what? You have no idea what you're up against. I'm sure that you've done something that you shouldn't have and there will be political repercussions." He pointed at the spear hero, who was nursing a lump on his forehead. Naruto continued, "I don't drink. You stole my stuff or were tricked into receiving it. Check my room for the clothes I came here in and my tools. I bet you don't find them. Because I don't have them here on me. Better yet, I'm out of here. Blame me for what was it? Attempted rape. Good luck with that. I've never touched a woman in my life. I'm still a virgin. I'm 15. I bet she is older than me and was trying to get me to drink last night and I turned her down. I bet it is against the law in your worlds for a woman of her age to have with someone of my age. Isn't it? This is what I get for spurning her, well, so be it. I'm out of here." Ren then exclaimed, "I guess he thinks a hero can do whatever the hell he wants to and get away with it." The point Naruto made seemed to be lost on the heroes. The point that most countries in their modern worlds had rape laws dealing with underage consent. Motoyasu then exclaimed, "This world is not some consequence-free playground for you. Know your place, scoundrel." Naruto then said slowly, "Playground. Your world was all peace and love. Mine was death and war. Don't talk to me about consequences." The aide then said, "I knew it. It was a mistake to summon all four at once." A noble exclaimed, "Exactly, we shouldn't have summoned the shield hero at all." Another noble replied, "Who could have known that he would have been such scum?" Naruto growled and thought, "This is about the shield. They appear to hate the shield. Why should I help this country? The nobility all seem to be against me." He then said, "Fine, send me back to my world. Summon another shield hero or whatever. I'm not running, but why would I want to help those that seem to want to not stop the waves of catastrophe? Or is it just you want to stop the shield hero?" Itsuki asked, "How can you think of abandoning your job?" Motoyasu then said, "I say, let the coward run on home. Who wants to fight alongside a rapist? Good riddance." Naruto shook his head and exclaimed, "You really don't get it, do you? You've been taken from your homes and forced to fight in a war that you're not ready to fight. This little girl is playing games and sewing decent. You don't know about life and death struggles, at all. I do. I've had to kill. Have you?" The king exclaimed, "Enough. We can't send you back. We can only summon a new hero once all four heroes meet their end. You can go home if you fight off all the incoming waves. Then you might be able to go home." Motoyasu asked, "But sir, does that mean we'll have to fight alongside a criminal like him?" Naruto exclaimed, "Screw you. Toothpick boy." Naruto chuckled darkly and then exclaimed, "I'll figure out how to handle the waves my way. Also, there is no way you can imprison me. I can get out of any prison you make, so I'm leaving." The king sighed and replied, "That is fine, but news of your crime has already spread amongst the people. That is your punishment. You should never expect to lead a decent life in this country." Naruto then turned and began to walk out. He then felt his right arm being pulled back. He turned to see an angry Motoyasu. Motoyasu said, "Hey, wait a minute." Naruto growled and replied, "A minute. I have little offense and you want me to waste my time with your pleas to listen to your ideas of what you think I've done. I've done nothing wrong, while he pointed at mine, who cowered from the angry glare. He continued, stole from me and framed me for rape or attempted rape. My adopted mother would squash me for even thinking of doing that, let alone the girls I know. I'm terrible with girls. I was an outcast for my whole life and you. He looked at the king and continued, I will help you with the waves, but you interfere with my training, I will squash your men and possibly your kingdom. Now let go before you lose your arm. He looked down at the arm and the air became oppressive. Motoyasu shakingly let go. Naruto walked off and Motoyasu shakily exclaimed, yeah, walk away you criminal. Naruto made it as far as the market only to be intercepted by Erhard. Naruto raised an eyebrow, but still scowled at the man. Erhard exclaimed, I heard what you did to that girl in your party. Naruto continued to stare the man down and then said, she never accepted my party invite. We need to talk elsewhere. Erhard led him down and saw from his demeanor that the boy was innocent. He waved him to follow. Soon after they entered Erhard's shop. He then said, talk. Naruto then said, you can come out sensei. Jiraiya appeared leaning against one of the posts. He then said, the boy's still a virgin and wouldn't harm a girl unless they were an enemy. I watched her break into his room and steal his stuff. His clothes from our world, the suit of armor you sold to him and the bag of silver. Erhard looked at the man in surprise and asked, who are you? Naruto growled and said, no theatrics. We are limited for time. I need to get out to the meadows and train, I'm still level 2, but just barely. Jiraiya nodded and replied, I am Jiraiya, one of the Sannin, the sage of toads, the teacher of the 4th Hokage and this brat. Shinobi of Konoha, at your service. He turned to Naruto and said, I got about 1 silver for the remains of the balloons you left me. Erhard rubbed his bald head and said, I don't know what to say. What can I help you get? Naruto then replied, I need 2 capes with hoods and some boots for each of us. Some clothes for me. That should do it. We will figure the rest out later. Erhard nodded and returned with a couple pairs of boots and 2 folded bundles. He then said, I can give this to you as a loan. Since she stole from you. Naruto shook his head and replied, how much? Erhard seemed struck aback and replied, 12 bronze pieces for the lot. Naruto nodded and Jiraiya laid the coins on the counter. Naruto then said, I want our relationship to be fair and true. Erhard laughed and replied, works for me. Anytime you need something come here and I'll do what I can. Jiraiya put the boots in his pack and put the brown cloak on. He covered his head and said, I'll meet you outside the castle in the woods. He handed Naruto his pack and then vanished out the door. Naruto put on the outfit, green cloak and then put on the boots. He watched Erhard put some items in his pack while he got dressed. He smiled widely and then said, Erhard, I'll be back. He then left the building. He walked down the street ignoring all the glares and then left the castle. He finally met up with his sensei after entering the woods. The pair began to slaughter balloons and Naruto watched his experience points climb quickly. The pair spent the night out in the woods. The pair entered the curtain walls separately. Naruto watched a man get some money for balloon pieces. He then came up to the vendor and Naruto asked, how much for this? He put a wad down. The man looked down greedily and replied, a bronze piece for the whole lot. Naruto frowned and replied, you gave that man 2 bronze per piece and there are at least 200 pieces here. You wouldn't be trying to steal from me. Or would live ones get me a better price? He pulled the cape away to reveal several balloons comped onto Naruto's side. He then pulled the vendor under his cloak and the vendor quickly replied, you win. Naruto let the man go and then said, I only want to be treated fairly and not be cheated. Now spread the word around that I want to be treated fair or the other merchants will get bite marks too. The man paid Naruto his 2 silver and then replied, of course I will spread the word around. I wouldn't want any alleged crimes to come in between business. Naruto nodded and walked off. Naruto left the merchant and then noticed an apothecary store and some of the plants growing from in a planter inside. He continued out to Erhard's and entered. He then looked at an old wooden shield. He waited, but then left the store after writing a note. He left and went out of the curtain walls. Erhard found the note on the counter and read it. He sighed and shook his head. Naruto met Jiraiya at the camp inside the forest and the pair prepared a meal. Naruto fed his shield the bones of the fish after they ate their meal. He received the fish shield. In the morning he found the same plant that he saw in the window of the apothecary. He plucked one and dropped it into his shield. He had already opened orange shield, now the yellow and leaf shield appeared on his upgrade tree. He had already mastered the small shield. He then said, leaf shield. The shield then changed into a leaf. He then picked some of the plant that he was looking at and suddenly the shield glowed and a display appeared saying, gathering skill +1 foot. He noted that the plant quality was improved by the shield. He then began to forage for more of these plants while Jiraiya went after more balloons. He gained experience while collecting herbs. He later went back into the town and into the apothecary shop. The apothecary exclaimed, wow, this is really great stuff. Where did you find these? Naruto replied, in the forest right outside of the castle. Didn't you know? The apothecary replied, sure, but I've never seen anything of such high quality. I was certain it wasn't much more than average. He then placed the money on the counter. Naruto had gone to a tavern with Jiraiya, but they sat separately. Jiraiya sat in the corner and Naruto up at the bar. Naruto ate his food, but sighed. He then thought, the food has had no taste since that day I go so angry. Erosenin says it will pass, but I'm not sure. The food just doesn't have any taste. 3 dregs of society walked up to Naruto and one said, oh great shield hero. We'll join your party if you want. The second chimed in, that's right, thank your lucky stars. He then put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto was fuming inside, but said in a monotone, okay, how about we discuss the terms up front? The second responded, sure thing. Naruto then explained, your pay will be performance-based. Catch my drift? The first replied, nope, not a clue. The trio laughed. Naruto explained, it means you will be paid according to the loot we get on our quest, and since I'm the leader I get at least 40%. I'll split up the rest amongst you guys at my discretion. If you do nothing, then you can expect to be paid nothing. The first exclaimed, what the hell? That could mean if you get a wild hair up your. We could get nothing. Keeping it all for yourself. Naruto replied, I promise to pay you if you do your job. Assuming you can. He got up and walked towards the door. Jiraiya was impressed with how far the boy had come, but saw the anger brewing below the surface. He wasn't sure how to fix this. He shadowed the foursome down the street. The second then suggested, how about we go pick up some equipment, boss man? Naruto angrily replied, buy your own equipment. I have nothing to gain by doing that for you. He then stopped in front of the trio with his back facing them. The first then said, forget the party crap and just hand over your money. Naruto closed his eyes and reached into his cloak. He then said calmly, now if you only had started off with that, you could have saved us a whole bunch of time. The second laughed and said, yeah, right. Who knew it would be so easy? He reached out his hand and Naruto turned and put a balloon on the hand. While pushing the man back, the first thug drew a knife and swung it at Naruto, while the third did similar to the first. Naruto blocked the first and kicked the third in the chest. When the knife of the first impacted on the shield glowed brightly. While the fight was quick for the thugs, Naruto was bored with this fight since they moved so slow compared to him. Naruto growled and watched as the trio retreated as fast as their legs could carry them. Naruto stepped on the returning balloon and then kicked it. Little offense and total defense. I'm in a terrible loop. I need more help. A voice came from behind him, looks like you could use some help. A shady man in a top hat came around a corner with a large smile. He then continued, it's clear you don't have any, or at least not much. What luck, I have exactly what you need. Naruto scowled off in the distance and replied, if you're offering party members then I don't want any. The man joyfully replied, party members. No, no. What I'm offering you is a service you'll find more convenient. Naruto looked back and asked, and what is that? The man happily asked, interested, are we? Naruto sighed and replied, leave me alone. The man laughed and said, you've got that look in your eyes that I just adore. You're every bit the rumors said you'd be. Naruto was not interested and asked, rumors? So, then you know who I am. The man smiled and replied, of course I do. Brave shield hero, sir. If my offer interests you, then follow me. And we can discuss it further. He then led Naruto to a large tent further across town. Jiraiya followed at a distance with a smile. They entered the tent and the man said, right this way. There were cages galore filled with monsters and creatures that looked like monsters. Naruto asked, so what are you offering? The man laughed and replied, can't you tell by just looking? They're slaves, my boy. Naruto shook his head and said, no way. The man turned and spread his arms as if to show the entire area. He exclaimed, yes way. I run a slave trading business. Naruto asked, what would make you think I would want to own slaves? The man replied, oh, I don't know. The fact that they could neither lie, nor betray their master. We keep all of our slaves in line by putting them under the effects of a curse. A strong seal-based curse. Things that can take their very lives. What do you say? Naruto growled and then sighed. After a minute he then replied, all right, show me what you got. The man then said, I knew you had what it takes to be a most wonderful patron. Naruto looked around and noted, some of them don't look human. The man replied, I can assure you they still are, technically. Naruto looked at the man with a raised eyebrow and asked, what do you mean? He replied, while they have monstrous appearance, they are still human. He began to explain the difference between beast men and demi-humans. Naruto noticed a cough and saw a girl with dull eyes in the cages he passed. The man continued, here let me show you my best. Naruto followed the man to a cage and saw a wolf man. He then explained, it's at level 75. Naruto looked at the wolf man and saw his own level, which was 5, as was Jiraiya. He then thought, that around 15 times higher than my level. He then asked, how much do you want for it? The man then replied, it is highly capable in battle, and fairly rare. How does 15 gold pieces sound? Naruto looked at the wolf man again and then replied, he has an injured leg, and he is your most expensive. You know full well that I can't afford it. The man happily replied, you've got a good eye and you're going to be one of my best customers. I got a nose for these things. So, I have to make sure you have a keen eye if you catch my drift. Good sir. Now that you've seen my best, what type of slave are you in the market for? Naruto sighed and replied, cheap and one that I can train. In other words, a demi-human. If I understand right, they aren't much suited for combat or manual labor, he replied. It doesn't matter. I can train them to be what I need, Naruto replied. Are you sure? The man asked. Yeah, I have a knack for training and will figure it out, Naruto replied. If you say so, the man replied happily. He then moved to a different area. Naruto recognized the area as the area with the girl with the dull eyes. The man then explained, these are the cheapest slaves I can offer you other than the dead ones, of course. Naruto looked at the girl and said authoritatively, raise your head. The girl coughed and looked at him with half-dead eyes. The man explained, that mangy half-raccoon is sick as a dog and a couple spokes short of a cartwheel. I'm having a hell of a time with her myself. He laughed. The girl cringed and the man continued, you see her previous owner loved his torture. He chuckled, but continued, but she's not long for this world. I suggest something else. Naruto looked at the girl and said, I've decided. She'll do. I'll take her. She became fearful and her eyes became wide. He looked at the next cage and saw a rabbit with a deformed hand. What about this one? The trader replied, that one has a birth defect and isn't worth much, but might work for helping you. She only has one good hand though. Naruto looked at the girl. She had pink hair and ears. She appeared to be only a little older than the raccoon girl. He smiled and said, I'll take her too. The girl looked a little terrified. The group had made it to the man's office. Naruto cut his thumb on his tooth and let it drip into the ink bowl. The man then said, let's begin. He walked up to the girls along with Naruto. Both bent down to raccoon girl's eye level. The man pushed down her hands to reveal a seal on her chest. Naruto looked at the seal with fascination. The man dipped a paintbrush into the ink and then wiped it inside the seal. The seal became active and a purple flame came out of the seal. The girl began to grunt in agony. Naruto looked at the man and he replied to the unasked question, nothing to worry about, the pain will dissipate soon. That slave crest on her chest makes it impossible to defy you. There you go, she's all yours. He then noticed a no-named demi-human come up on his HUD. They repeated the process for the rabbit girl. He then stood up and put a bag on the table and said, 30 silvers each, right? He poured some of the ink into his shield and noticed slave trader's shield come up in his vision. The man then said, there is 2 extra in here. Naruto replied, that is your commission. You were going to squeeze it out of me, anyways, weren't you? The man clasped his hands together and said happily, well, you certainly know your stuff. He then got down to the girl's level and asked, what are your names? The raccoon girl coughed and waited a couple seconds before responding, I'm called Raftalia. The rabbit girl replied, my name is Sylvie. Master. She seemed annoyed. Naruto then said, we need to go, Raftalia and Sylvie. He put his hands out to them. They tentatively took them. Naruto led them out of the tent. The trader smiled and said, I look forward to your next visit. And then thought, so he really did choose her. And the rabbit girl too. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Naruto walked along with Raftalia and Sylvie. He felt Raftalia's hand shaking in his. He entered Erhard's shop and Erhard said, welcome. Oh, it's you, what's with the girls? Naruto replied, needed another party member, so I bought a couple slaves, I need to equip them. We need weapons and clothes. Under 12 silver if you can. Naruto was looking at his help screen and waiting for the girls to get out of the changing rooms. The drape opened and he said, at last. Worse than Ino. Raftalia looked down and said, I'm sorry, sir. Sylvia asked, who is Ino? Naruto sighed and then said, doesn't matter. Draw your knife. Both girls looked surprised and exclaimed, huh. He pulled his cape away and revealed several orange balloons. The girls cringed and he pulled a balloon away from his side. He looked at Raftalia and then said, I want you to kill it. Raftalia was shaken and replied in a scared tone, no. Naruto sighed and then thought, I'm sorry, but it needs to be done. He then said, Raftalia, that's an order. The seal on her chest began to spark and she grunted in pain. She then fell to her knees. He then continued, you are hurting yourself by not doing this. You need to go through with this. Her resolve came to her and the seal stopped sparking as she rose to her feet. She drew her dagger and pointed at the balloon held by Naruto. She screamed and charged the balloon. It caught the dagger in its jaws and spit it out, thus landing her on her butt. Naruto exclaimed, not good enough. Go again. She charged again and popped the balloon. Naruto moved forward and she cringed. He patted her on the head and then said, good job. Now we are going to be working together. You are going to be fighting for me while I protect you. Do you understand? She nodded and replied, yes sir. He pulled another balloon out and Sylvie immediately stabbed it twice in succession, popping it quickly. He nodded at this happily. Erhard then said, she isn't much. Are you sure she will be able to help you out? Naruto replied, yes. Sensei will not be able to be around all the time and I will train them as much as possible. I also think we can fix Sylvie's arm. The slave merchant said it was a birth defect, but I think it was broken and healed wrong. We'll be back when we can to get equipment when needed. Erhard nodded and said, I look forward to it, kid. Naruto turned and began to walk out. He then said, "Let's go, girls." Raphtalia got up and sheathed her dagger. She quickly followed him out the door, while saying, "Yes, sir." Sylvia nodded and followed Naruto. Naruto was walking down the main thoroughfare and saw a man mistreating a couple of demi-human slaves. He then heard Raphtalia's stomach growl. He asked, "Are you hungry?" She shook her head and replied, "No, sir." Naruto sighed and said, "You can't fight on an empty stomach. Let's get some lunch." She was confused at hearing this and repeated him, "Lunch." She then followed him to a tavern, but saw a sign that said, "We don't serve our demi-humans." She then said, "Sir." Naruto sighed and asked, "Now what?" She tried to explain, "This place." Naruto, being hungry, just wanted to eat, said, "Hurry up." Both girls quickly followed him into the tavern. The Naruto noticed the patrons get angry. He smiled inside at this, but showed nothing outside. He heard one say, "The shield hero. What is he doing here?" Naruto sat down and had the girls sit on the opposite side of him at the table. He looked at the girls and they seemed to be eyeing a plate that a boy was eating. The waiter grumbled, but came over and asked, "Can I help you?" Naruto replied, "I'll have the cheapest plate you have for me and two of what that kid is having for the girls." The waiter replied, "That will be 13 copper coins." Naruto put the coins on the table. Raphtalia asked, "Why, sir?" Naruto looked at her and asked, "Why what? Aren't you hungry?" She shook her head and asked, "Why are you getting it for us?" Sylvie also nodded her head. Naruto replied, "I need you both to be fed and healthy to help me. I also am going to train you both along with my sensei." The waiter returned with the food and placed it in front of the girls who had stars in their eyes and were staring at their plates. The waiter said, "All right, here's your food." Naruto chuckled and said, "Are you just going to stare at it or are you going to eat it?" Both girls asked in unison, "Are you sure this is for me?" Naruto replied, "I bought it for you. Didn't I? So, dig in. We have training to do." Raphtalia began to eat with gusto, while Sylvie ate at a modest pace, but kept an eye on Naruto. Naruto noticed this, but said nothing. Raphtalia had begun to choke on the food and Naruto said, "Drink this." While he pushed a glass of water forward. Raphtalia drank the water and cleared the blockage. Naruto asked, "How's the food?" Raphtalia smiled and nodded. Sylvie nodded and cracked a smile. Naruto took a bite of his food and grimaced. He thought, "Taste still eludes me. Not sure why, but haven't been able to taste food for years now." The trio left the tavern and headed to the woods. Naruto then said, "We will meet the other person in our party in a minute, but there are a few things that I have to say first. I also have a few things that I have to ask also. My sensei is a major pervert. I'm warning you now, but you're young, so you should evade his eyes for now. Unless there is something that I should know about demi-humans." Sylvie spoke first, "Master, you look like my last master. Thus, the reason I don't like you much. Also, as we level, we demi-humans will age quickly to maturity." Naruto raised an eyebrow, but nodded. He then said, "I figured that your last master broke your arm and let it heal wrong on purpose. He then sold you and called it a birth defect." Sylvie nodded and replied, "So, why did you buy a useless slave like me?" A deep voice from behind a tree replied, "Because your hair reminded him of the girl who he loved and broke his heart. She also betrayed him. The other one reminds him of the one he knew was going to betray him. I will let him explain. Oh, by the way, I am your other teammate, Jiraiya, and his teacher. Now first we will fix that arm of yours. It will hurt, but with the abilities of the shield and his medicines he seems to be able to whip up. You will be healed in no time. Also, both of us will be teaching you in the art of the shinobi to broaden your abilities. Now with you both being mistreated slaves, you can rest assured that he will not mistreat you, but he will be firm on using those seals to make sure that you learn to overcome your fears and help save this world." Sylvie looked questioningly at Naruto and asked, "Who is this woman who betrayed you?" Naruto motioned for them to sit by the fire and he sighed heavily. He then began, "The first is Sakura Haruno, my first love and one of my teammates from my world. Looking back, to her I was only an annoyance or a means to an end. She wanted to get closer to Sasuke Uchiha, our other teammate. Sure, the guy had a lot going for him. He was from a prestigious clan and was better than I was, but he didn't give the girls who followed him the time of day, and I mean almost all the girls in our class were in love with him." He air quoted, "in love," and continued, "Eventually the team became stronger, but she was getting left behind in ability. I was beginning to match his abilities or even surpass them, in some areas at least. The girls always found him cool, and him having his clan slaughtered made him distant, but also hard to approach. This caused the girls to want to be around him even more." He sighed again and looked at Sylvie. "I'm not using you to replace Sakura. Almost like I want to keep myself from repeating the same mistake again." Jiraiya coughed and said, "I would tell them now. Let them judge you for you and let your actions speak for themselves." Naruto whined, "Do I have to? They're how old?" Raftalia replied, 10. Sylvie replied, 11. Jiraiya said, "Only a little younger than you when you became a genin. Given what Sylvie said, they will be growing quickly to help you with these waves." Raftalia looked expectantly at Naruto and asked, "You're a hero?" Naruto nodded and replied, "Yeah. Believe it or not, I'm the shield hero." Sylvie began to cry and exclaimed, "I'm sorry. If you're the shield hero, then you're going to help the demi-humans. Please forgive me." Naruto reached over and Sylvie flinched. Naruto rubbed her head between her ears. He then said, "It's alright. I guess there is history. Tonight, we are going to talk and go over training. So, to continue. Sasuke had a brother. The one who slaughtered their clan. I got to meet him, and well, here is where we get into the complications. Back when on the day I was born, a demon made of pure charka, or you guys would say energy for easy reference. It attacked my village. The fourth Hokage, the leader of the village, fought the beast and sealed it into an infant. That infant was me. Now back to the original story. Sasuke's brother Itachi wanted to capture me for this beast, the Kyuubi, or the nine-tailed fox. Sasuke left the village to chase his brother. Being the arrogant prick, he was thought he could beat a man who had years more experience than himself. While Sasuke only had at most a year of practical experience, and got his handed to him. He got his arm broken and put under a genjutsu, or as you would call it, a strong illusion. He was taken back to the village while sensei and I went to find the fifth Hokage, the woman I think of as my adoptive mother or grandmother. You see, my parents died on the night the Kyuubi was sealed in me. When we finally persuaded her to come back to the village. Jiraiya began to laugh and said, "Now that is a story unto itself. You were an arrogant punk yourself, but with how you were treated, I understand how you got that way." Naruto scowled and replied, "Little thanks to you, Godfather. Now after we brought Ba-chan, I mean Tsunade back. She healed Sasuke and Kakashi, my genin team captain. Not much of a teacher, but on with the story. Sasuke had a seal on him and was offered an opportunity to get some training from a traitor. He took it and abandoned the village. Sakura had attempted to stop him, but he knocked her out easily and he left the village with some enemy shinobi. We learned about his leaving and formed a party to chase after him. It consisted of our friends who were the most competent, but at the lower levels of skills." Sylvie asked, "Why not send more skilled people after him?" Naruto shrugged and Jiraiya replied, "At the time only a large team of genin headed by a newly minted chunin were all that were available. The elders apparently had tied up most of our special forces, but Sasuke's group did run into a Junin squad, and the group with Sasuke were slowed, and possibly weakened." Naruto guffawed at that and exclaimed, "We had to leave each member with a single member of the enemy squad. Heck, Rock Lee came and helped me with that bone guy." Raftalia asked in a worried tone, "Bone guy?" Naruto waved it off and replied, "I'll explain later. Now back to the story. I finally caught up with Sasuke. He had changed and was able to use his curse mark to strengthen himself. He went for the kill while I went for the capture. Jiraiya explained, it is easier to kill an opponent than capture, since you have to make sure that the wounds you inflict don't kill them. Break an arm or leg, instead of just stabbing them in a vital area. Naruto nodded and continued, the fight reformed an entire valley. He shoved an assassination jutsu, technique into my chest, and nearly took out my heart. He did a pile driver move on my head and spine. Burned me with a high-level fire technique. I for my part slammed him into the cliff several times and generally beat the crap out of him. We finally clashed with me using the Kyuubi's chakra and my Rasengan against his second-level curse and Chidori, an assassination technique. I ended up on the ground on my back with him kneeling and looking down on me. I kneed him in the head and knocked him out. I was spent, but tied him up and slung him on my back. I headed back to the village and found one of the enemy combatants and made a clone while taking her prisoner. Sylvie asked, a clone? Naruto nodded and replied, you must keep this secret from others, since is an ability that I hope to teach you later. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto had crossed his hands with his index and middle fingers extended. In a poof of smoke, a second Naruto appeared. Naruto looked confused and said, weird, it looks like that took more chakra than I thought it should. Jiraiya thought and said, Shadow Clone Jutsu. He mimicked Naruto's hands and in a poof of smoke a second Jiraiya appeared. He then rubbed his chin and looked at the two Narutos. He then said, looks like the clone doesn't have the shield. So, it may not have the weapon restriction. He pulled out a kunai and threw it to the clone. The clone replied, I see no warnings for using it. I have intent to use it on any enemy that shows up. Jiraiya nodded and said, we can use this to our advantage. Look, the clone appears as a party member. Let's hope you don't create 1,000 like I heard you did against Mizuki. Naruto chuckled and said, looking at the loss of chakra and mana. I can't make more than 20 before I'm out of both. Jiraiya grinned and said, looks like more chakra control exercises. Naruto grabbed his head and exclaimed, no. He then got control of himself. He took a deep breath and said, to continue the story. I finally met up with Kakashi, who took Sasuke and sped off. I met up with a medical team that ignored him, and they helped me take the girl named Yuya back to the village. I also fell to exhaustion at this point. I found out after waking in the hospital that Kakashi had said that I had injured Sasuke and was beating him after he was unconscious, until he arrived to save him and return him to the village. Sakura, being who she was, believed him and came into my room and began to beat me. When the nurse came in, Sakura said that I had gotten up and attacked her. The funny part was I was still in the bed, bandaged up, bleeding from new wounds and still hooked up to the monitoring equipment. She said under her breath, you tell them and I'll kill you. My crush for her died at that moment. Sylvie began to cry and said, I'm sorry. Naruto shook his head and said, it wasn't you. Your hair just reminded me of her. He then pointed to Raphtalia, who slinked back in fear. He chuckled and explained, your hair reminds me of the girl, woman who said that she was going to join my party, but lied, stole, and accused me of a grievous crime. Raphtalia shakingly asked, if I may ask. What crime? Naruto sighed and looked at Jiraiya, who nodded. Naruto replied, attempted rape. Both girls gasped. Naruto looked down and clenched his fists and was soon drawing blood. Jiraiya then explained, she had said that she wanted to join Naruto's party, but when they went to gain experience, she didn't join the party. Later she had him buy her an expensive outfit. They then went to dinner and afterwards she asked him to drink. He refused, wisely I might add. Later after he went to bed, she and another cast a sleep spell on him and ransacked him room for his equipment and money. They even took his clothes from our world. Still haven't gotten a line on those yet. I might also have a line of learning the alphabet of this world and possibly the magic one too. Seems like the crone at the magic shop is taking a fancy to me, but back to the story. The girl gave Naruto's armor to the spear hero and then a little later staged a fake scene about her being attacked by Naruto who was asleep. The boy had at least the good graces to not try and go after Naruto at that time. Naruto groggy and me helping him would have torn the spear hero to pieces. He and Naruto chuckled together. Jiraiya continued, a scene was made by the guards and then at the palace by the king. The other heroes don't believe that Naruto is innocent. The boy hasn't been with a woman yet. Raftalia asked. Been with a woman? Sylvie blushed at the statement. Jiraiya sighed and said, guess I have to explain this. He raised his hand to halt Naruto's complaint. He then said, they must know. They are going to go through puberty and more than likely fairly soon. You are still going through it and we will have to deal with it. While their chronological age is 10 and 11. They will age quickly and I'm hoping their minds also age along with their bodies. Jiraiya then went on to give a clinical explanation of and how babies were made. He finished with, now that you know. I don't want you to engage in this until I say that you're ready. Any of you. Am I understood? The girls replied, yes sir. Naruto scratched the back of his head and then said, I'm surprised you could do that explanation without going into some weird tangent, but yes I understand. Jiraiya chuckled and said, I worry about you Naruto and I don't want you to have any kids too soon. Also, Tsunade Harem will kill me if you get too frisky. Naruto began to laugh heartily. Jiraiya blushed and exclaimed, laugh it up, but I figure that these girls are going to help heal your heart and you have to be the one to hold them in check. Naruto wiped a tear away and replied, I understand. Yeah, Ba-chan can be scary. How did summoning go? Jiraiya scowled and replied, I was able to summon Gamakichi and give him a note for Ma, Pa, and Tsunade Harem. It took about 3/4 of my chakra to summon him, so we are limited in that route. We should get some news tomorrow. The clones popped and Jiraiya began to cook food. He then turned and there was a poof of smoke. He bowed and said, Fukasaku-sensei. A toad with white eyebrows, goatee, and mohawk had appeared. Naruto quickly used his hand to calm the girls. The toad spoke, but the girls couldn't understand. Jiraiya boy and Naruto-chan, I'm glad to see that both of you are in good health if not in your normal attire. Tsunade-chan has a scroll for you and the boy for training. She also has a treatment for the girl that you said he might choose. Ah, I see he did choose her. We also can't reverse summon you. This world for some reason will not allow it, but I can summon myself with the use of sage arts. Jiraiya nodded and replied, I see. Yes, he is somewhat predictable, but he chose another. I think that both will be good for helping him and they look like they might just be able to learn our ways. We might also be able to learn their ways. After we fix the girl's arm, we can start the chakra exercises. We need more advanced training for Naruto though. Naruto translated for the girls. Fukasaku nodded and replied, I agree, he is advancing well. Did you do the element test? Jiraiya shook his head and replied, no, I didn't have the paper to do it. Fukasaku smiled and said, if there is an element that you can't do. She sent basic scrolls on it. She also included some jutsu in each element for training. You can also start sage training if you feel he is ready, but don't let him pull the chakra without me around. Jiraiya nodded and replied, of course. He took the pack from the toad and the toad left in a poof of smoke. He then turned to Naruto and said, the language magic lasts for 3 days and it will be up tonight. So, we need me to start to learn this language soon. Naruto nodded and looked the girls. He turned and quickly caught the scroll tossed to him by Jiraiya. He opened it and exclaimed, you want me to do it? Jiraiya chuckled and replied, yep, you're their master, so have at it. Naruto gave Sylvie a sympathetic look and said, this scroll explains how to fix your arm. I'll explain it to you first and then we can go through it point by point. Sylvie looked afraid and cradled her deformed arm. She asked tentatively, is it going to hurt? Naruto nodded and replied, yes, it will. You may even pass out from the pain. Let's go over the procedure. He looked into her eyes. She finally nodded. He opened the scroll and it also had pictures. He began to explain, alright, I need to rebreak the bone and more than likely crush part that is angled. That is the part that will hurt the worst. We need the bone broken in such a way that we can align it for a straight arm. After that I straighten the arm and push in some chakra to the area. Not sure what that will do to you, but it will help with the arm brace that I'm going to put over the area for it to heal. Do you have any questions? Sylvie asked. Why do you need to crush the bent area? Naruto looked down at the scroll and then replied, according to Ba-chan, it is to make sure that those bones don't interfere with the arm healing correctly. It also said I should activate your core chakra. Is that okay with you? She nodded. He then explained, I need you to uncover your stomach and lay down. I will then push some chakra into you. This is supposed to activate your chakra. Sylvie nodded and said, if this will help me then I will do anything. When this is over, I will tell my tale. She pulled her battle dress and underdress over her head and laid down on it. Naruto blushed and turned quickly. Jiraiya slapped his head and said, the girl trusts you. She is not fully and is too young to cause you to be interested. Now get to work. Naruto gulped and turned to the girl and looked at her eyes. He saw determination in her eyes. His eyes traveled down her body and just before he said anything Jiraiya said, yes, children look the same until puberty. Now get to it. Naruto looked at the girl and pushed down her underpants to reveal her belly button. He missed a laugh in the back of his mind as he continued. His hand became engulfed in a blue hue, but there were flecks of orange, nearly microscopic. He touched her stomach and pushed his chakra into Sylvie. She gasped and then moaned. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow, but nodded to Naruto. He soon felt a light tug on his chakra and halted the chakra. Sylvie was breathing hard and her eyes were heavy-lidded. He asked, did I do it right? Jiraiya nodded and replied, yes, I've heard that it sometimes has a euphoric affect upon activation. It happens on those who are older. You would not want to do it on a woman in her 30s. She would want you for that to happen again and again, if you know what I mean. Naruto looked at Jiraiya and asked, you mean I made her? Jiraiya nodded. Naruto sighed and just shook his head. He put her undershirt back on and put her on a sleeping bag. He turned to Raphtalia and asked, are you ready to have your chakra activated? Raphtalia couldn't decide and asked, are you going to order me? And will he do it? Jiraiya shook his head and replied, I will not activate your chakra. That is his job. Also, you're too young for me. Naruto scowled and replied, I will not order you, but it will help you. He then noticed Sylvie's status updated with a chakra bar that was slowly filling. He then said, it worked for her. Raphtalia then asked, can I keep my shirt on? Naruto laughed and replied, yes of course, I only need to touch the area around your belly button. She nodded and lifted her battle dress off with the help of Naruto. She then laid down on a sleeping bag. Naruto moved the undergarments out of the way and then asked, are you ready? She nodded and replied, yes, master. Naruto repeated the process of pushing chakra to his hand and then placing it on the girl's stomach. There were still flecks of orange chakra in his chakra. This time the reaction wasn't so dramatic. She just grunted and then looked expectantly at Naruto when he finished. Sylvie was asleep, but Raphtalia sat up and Naruto helped her into her battle dress. Naruto asked, how do you feel? She replied, I have a little more energy, but I'm tired. It's hard to explain. Jiraiya said, just rest and wait for dinner to be done. Naruto time to work on that arm. Naruto sighed and moved to Sylvie's side. He touched the scroll and 2 wooden splints, a roll of gauze and 2 bottles appeared on the scroll. He looked sympathetically at the girl and asked, are you ready? She nodded and replied, yes. Please fix what the man who looks similar to you, that did this to me and erase that memory from me. He poured one of the bottles into the shield and a new shield appeared. Healing salve shield, chakra-based healing will get a +5. Chakra control boost, small. Naruto tilted his head and changed his shield. The shield became a leather bracer with the kanji for doctor on it with the gem in the middle of the bracer. He waved Jiraiya over and showed it to him. Look, a new shield of sorts. It works on healing and chakra control, Naruto explained. He then continued, I'm not sure with the shield that I have enough strength to break bones right, so keep an eye on me and I might ask you to help with it. He then pushed chakra into another seal and padded bar appeared with several scrolls. There was a note on the scrolls. If you want to learn healing, read these scrolls. Naruto shook his head. He looked down at Sylvie and smiled warmly. He then said, bite down on this and I'm sorry for hurting you. He put the padded bar in her mouth. He then gently took her arm and put his hands on both sides of the bend. The bend was just above the wrist and could be taken for a birth defect, but upon closer inspection, you could tell it was too clean. Naruto gently said, on 3 I'm going to do this. He looked into her eyes and waited for her to acknowledge. He started counting, 1, 2, and then used chakra to enhance his strength. The bones broke and she arched her back. She also bit down on the bit and screamed. Naruto continued to work the arm and crushed the bone at the bend, while straightening the arm. He then gently did what he could to move the bones in the area around to align them correctly. He had Jiraiya check his work. By this time Sylvie had passed out from the pain. Jiraiya nodded and he held the girl's hand in place while Naruto applied the splints and the gauze wrapping, making sure to secure both the arm and the hand. He then applied chakra to the wrap, and it glowed green. He gently woke Sylvie up and said, drink this. She opened her mouth and drank the potion. Naruto then gently put her battle dress on and put her arm in a sling. She weakly smiled and said, thank you, master. Naruto chuckled and said, I just hurt you more. Sorry. She shook her head and replied, you fixed what my half-brother did to me. Naruto looked angry and asked, half-brother? Sylvie nodded and replied, my family is noble, but the head of the house practices taking demi-human mates as concubines. My brother was born to my father's human wife, thus a noble. I was born a few years after. My brother didn't like me, nor did he like most demi-humans. I figure it was because of his mother. The demi-human children born from the nobles are trained as servants to the family. My brother despised me so much he broke my arm and made sure it healed this way. He then began to sell off the serving staff. He and his mother seemed to not be able to run the area very well and were going into debt. Thus, sold off the staff into slavery. He sold me off as one with a birth defect so that I would die in the slave merchants' cages, from one of the nobles that like to torture and kill demi-humans, or become a slave. I was worried that you were either one of those and my life would end. Thankfully, my fears were wrong. She shifted and winced. She then asked, how long will I have to wear this? Naruto read over the notes and replied, a week or 2 at least. Jiraiya came back and handed out fish on a stick to each of the campers. He then said, eat up. For in the morning, we begin your training. In both levels and shinobi arts. The 4 ate in silence while Raphtalia looked at Naruto in wonder and Sylvie looked at him with devotion. Jiraiya looked at him with a smirk. Naruto looked down and didn't know what was going on with him. He at this point heard laughter in the back of his mind. His anger peaked a little, but he simmered down, so as not to scare the girls. Later that night Naruto was on his watch shift with Jiraiya and the girls asleep. Raphtalia suddenly began screaming, no. They're dead. No. They're dead. Mother. Father, they're dead. Naruto quickly came over to the girl and pulled her into a hug and began to comfort her with brushing his hand down the back of her head. He also said quietly, it's okay. I understand. I'm here. Sylvie looked at the scene and smiled, as did Jiraiya. Jiraiya watched as Sylvie moved her sleeping bag over next to Raphtalia's. A little later Naruto was asleep. He smiled, as Naruto cradled the whimpering Raphtalia, and Sylvie had her arm around Naruto. He stayed up until morning and prepared the breakfast. Naruto woke with both girls on him. Sylvie was laying on his right arm and using it as a pillow, while Raphtalia was snuggled into his chest. He looked up and saw Jiraiya, who just looked back and shrugged. Naruto quietly extracted himself. This caused both girls to groan in dissatisfaction. He then helped the older shinobi cook breakfast. The girls finally woke up to the smell of food. Raphtalia began to cough and Naruto handed her a conical leaf with a liquid in it. Naruto replied to the unasked question, "It is a cough medicine. It should help with a cold or other mild malady. I have also added some flavoring and had sensei try it to make sure it is at least palatable, since I can't taste a thing right now." She drank it down. While it wasn't awful, it was somewhat bitter, but had a smooth, slightly sweet taste. She said, "It doesn't taste good, but could it be worse?" Jiraiya chuckled and replied, "Yes, most medicines are bitter. Especially those that are first made." His first couple tries were just plain awful. So be happy I was your taste tester. Jiraiya sat the trio down and said, "I know that you should know this, Naruto, but in case you didn't, I'm going to go over it again, so that you have the basics down. The abilities that Naruto and I use are chakra-based, not mana-based. There will be 3 basic techniques or jutsu that you will learn. You will also learn the escape jutsu, so that you can get out of bindings and if you're captured. Also, Naruto, take the shackles off the girls. They will make noise and make it easier to bind them later." Naruto got up and formed a clone. He then formed a ball of energy in his and touched the shackles on the girl. Each shackle broke quickly under the jutsu. Jiraiya scowled and said, "You are going to learn to do that without a clone. Now for the first lesson. The energy that Naruto pushed into you started and enlarged your own chakra." Naruto showed them the position to start with, moving their chakra around. Naruto nodded and sat down in a sensa position. He clasped his hands together and then said, "Reach down into yourself. Into your core. Where I push the chakra into you, and then when you can feel it, give it a light tug." Raphtalia concentrated and felt the energy in her core and then felt something warm move within her. She exclaimed, "I think I did it." Sylvie did the same thing, but was awash in energy and it was apparent with a slightly yellow glow around her body. She then became lightheaded and everything went black. Naruto was quick to catch her from hitting the ground and looked to Jiraiya. Jiraiya sighed and said, "Looks like we have another overachiever. She should be fine. She is also still healing from an injury. The bandages may have taken some of her chakra and added to the healing, which could be a good thing." Naruto gently laid Sylvie's head on his lap. Jiraiya then pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to Naruto. He then explained, "This is chakra paper. The girls are not advanced enough for this yet, but you are. Push some chakra into it and we will see what chakra type you are." Naruto pushed chakra into the paper and it split in half and half became wet to the point of it dripping. The other half crinkled and then ignited and burned to ash. Naruto looked surprised and asked, "What does it mean?" Jiraiya replied, "It means that sensei was an idiot and that you're a protege. Looks like you have wind and water in equal proportion. You also have lightning and fire in equal, but lesser proportions. To do this right I think we will need to use clones, but also be careful not to disturb your tenant. Let's start with water and fire." He then created 2 clones and then said, "Create a clone for each and they will work over there." Naruto nodded and complied. The clones went towards the stream and began to train. Sylvie woke up with her head on Naruto's lap. He then said, "Morning, sleepy head." She blushed and looked up at Naruto, but felt weird. She reached up to the collar around her neck and found it missing. "Where is my collar?" Naruto replied, "Did you forget I took it off earlier? While you may be a slave, I removed the signatures of that awful practice. Also, we will leave the seals for now since it will keep people from abducting you. I've set the seals to only stop you from attacking me. So, no more orders. I will give you orders, but you will have to do as I say, because you know it is the right thing to do. Remember, hesitation in battle can mean death for you or your comrades. We are a team now. Our job is to protect each other. You are to obey either Jiraiya sensei or myself. We will push you hard, but you will also have time to relax and recover. Sylvie will not have to use her left arm in most of the training, at least until it heals. I will also develop a business to acquire more slaves and companions. This training will go both ways. Since Sensei doesn't know the language, we will have you train him in it, and if you can read, we will buy books to learn the language's written language. The schedule will be chakra training, breakfast, fighting some monsters, lunch, shinobi training, that includes strength, stealth, and endurance, dinner, more chakra training, or book learning, and then bed. We will also move from day to day. I will send out some clones to learn some things that we need to know. Naruto created a clone and it changed into a peasant and then jumped off. Jiraiya clapped and said, "You might have what it takes to be a Chunin. Now have a clone work on breakfast and you get to work on the Rasengan." Naruto pouted. Ah, both girls giggled at his antics. Jiraiya then began to instruct the girls on basic chakra theory. An hour later the group had breakfast. Jiraiya and Raftalia became a force to be reckoned with, as they tore through the basic monsters in the area. Naruto collected the parts that merchants would buy, since his shield had enough of those components at the moment. Naruto and Sylvie would hold back, with Naruto blocking and Sylvie attacking with her good arm. The children gained several levels and were now level 4, and Jiraiya was level 7, while Naruto was only level 6. He watched as he continued to get the short end of the stick in experience. He did clear level 7 when he felt his clones burst and he got the memories. He looked at Jiraiya and the man nodded. Naruto knew now that shadow clones had held a secret that he had not known and was now going to exploit. Lunch was a quiet affair. After lunch, the girls went off with Jiraiya to do the physical aspects of their training. Naruto sent off 2 clones, one to practice water and one for fire. While he continued work on the Rasengan, Naruto laughed as Jiraiya had to carry both the girls back to dinner. The girls had a hard time studying more about chakra that evening and quickly fell asleep. It was another night of terrors for Raftalia and snuggles for Sylvie. One of Naruto's clone that went into town earlier that day and had found out that he could get information from the dragon hourglass in the church. He explained it to Jiraiya after the girls had fallen asleep. Jiraiya had told him it might be better if he snuck in and did his business. The next morning was a repeat of chakra theory and training and then breakfast. Naruto left 2 clones to protect Sylvie while the others went hunting. He on the other hand went into town. He pushed his shield onto his back and transformed into a cloaked woman. He snuck into the church and listened into the conversations. He found the hourglass, but didn't approach until the area was empty. Both the shield and hourglass reacted and gave him a timer of over 3 weeks. He continued to sneak around the church and heard the nuns and a father talk about giving dragon sand to the heroes when they gained some levels. He also discovered where they hid it. Well, where they stored it. It was a storeroom in unorganized piles of bags on shelves. So, he snuck a bag of the sand and poured it into the shield. It told him that he could use a teleport ability, but only after he had achieved level 60. He sighed and left the church and met up with Erhard. The pair discussed things like the other kingdoms in relations to Melmormark, where the kingdoms were located and such. His discoveries led him to decide to make a trip after the next wave to an adjoining country. He didn't like the idea of Fabri or Siltveld, but did like Shieldfrieden. He noted that it might be too far to go to Shieldfrieden one go, but Fabri or Siltveld would be a good choice for getting some other dragon hourglasses with his shield. This would help him spread out and help other countries. He also asked where he could make money outside of Castle City, and Erhard suggested Loot Village not too far away to the southwest. He also had one more thing to do just after nightfall. He found the knight who lied against him. Naruto had transformed into a pretty woman and spiked the knight's drink with a sleeping potion. The knight was groggy and talked about a special prisoner that the king was hiding from the heroes, especially the shield hero. A pretty face will loosen lips, but the drug seemed to do more. The man thought he was going to have night with a beautiful woman, but woke up the next morning hanging, like an ornament, On the wall above the barracks, Stark, tied with a note reading that he is a liar and couldn't be trusted. This note was hung around his neck in public display. It took the knights over 2 hours to get the man down when they eventually found him. The person who found him was a woman going to the market and reported a man to the castle guard. The knight was arrested for indecency. Naruto entered the camp late that night and found 2 very tired girls waiting on him. He smiled and told them that they were going to go to Loot Village and use that as a base of operations. On the way, the group ran into several groups of the local rabbits or Usapil. While Raphtalia had problems with killing these animals, Naruto and Jiraiya didn't. They worked with Raphtalia to get over her fear of blood by helping prepare the animals. After about 4, she finally got over her fear of blood and killed one herself. Naruto and Jiraiya that night cleaned the weapons and tools. Sylvie accidentally dropped a whetstone on the shield and it had an interesting result, creating the sharpening shield. They also fed the shield the Usapil fur and meat, garnering him another 2 shields. The second day they ran into a warren of Usapil and had to deal with 24 of them. The party, except for Jiraiya, were covered in blood. After taking care of the animals, Naruto took the girls to the river. Naruto exclaimed, "Clean your clothes off and then clean yourselves off." The girls replied, happily, "Okay," and began to strip in front of him at the riverbank. Naruto exclaimed, "What are you doing?" Sylvie replied, "Doing as our master ordered." As she shed the last of her clothes and moved off into the water, without a care in the world. Naruto watched stunned as the girls moved off. He had noticed that they had seemed to have grown in the last couple days. It appeared that they had aged a couple years. He blushed at what he saw and shook his head, as he watched the backsides of the girls. He then turned and took his clothes off. He began to wash his shirt and jerkin first. He had not used his cloak or backpack and had left them in camp with Jiraiya. He had taken 3 towels with him for the trio to use. He was pleasantly surprised that the medicine had done wonders for Raphtalia's cough. Sylvie seemed to not be in much pain from the surgery that had fixed her arm. He had set out his tops on the beach to dry and was working on his pants and boxers now. He finished with them and worked on his body next. He sensed a presence near him and turned to find 2 blushing girls looking directly at him. He sighed and walked over and grabbed towels. He handed them out. He kept on thinking, they are only 10 and 11, not around 14. Keep your mind on the job. He did notice their developing bodies, but said nothing. Sylvie wrapped the towel around herself and asked, "Did you like what you saw, Naruto-sama?" Naruto sighed and replied, "You're 11. Yes, I know that you demi-humans age differently as you level, but we should keep this professional. Liking or not liking isn't the point." Raphtalia had turned and wrapped herself in a towel. She then said, "If it's you, I don't mind. You've been kind to me and helped me." Naruto was facing away from the girls and had just wrapped his towel around himself. He then said, "This is part of what Sensei warned us about. You both are pretty, and I can tell that you're both going to become beautiful, but I don't know if I'm ready to open my heart again. Besides, I'm older than you guys by 4 and 5 years, respectively. I don't want to take advantage of you. Both Jiraiya and Ba-chan would kill me." He stood up. He felt 2 arms wrap around him and one was in a splint. He gulped as he felt her chest through the towel push against his back. She then said, "You just proved that you wouldn't take advantage of us. We will follow you to the end of these waves and back to your world if necessary. We care deeply for you. We've only known you a week or so, but you've done so much for us that we want to do something for you. If only a little. Eventually we will become older than you and we know that aging will slow when we hit about 18 or so. We're level 10 or so as a group, with you lagging behind, but if you use clones you can catch up somewhat." Naruto touched the arms wrapped around him gently and tears welled up in his eyes. He then felt another set of arms wrap around him. Both the girls were just shorter than him, with Raphtalia slightly shorter than Sylvie. He turned within the group hug and hugged the girls tightly. He quietly said, Thank you. After a few minutes the hug broke, and the girls walked away to collect their clothes. Naruto was teary-eyed and heard Jiraiya say, "Looks like you've done it. They love you. There is no way around it." Not sure what level Raftalia is at, but Sylvie's is definitely a romantic love. You've gotten lucky, my boy. The food is ready and let's keep them safe for you. Naruto wiped the tears from his eyes and collected his clothes. Naruto dressed behind a bush while the girls dressed behind another bush at camp. Jiraiya seemed content to keep an eye on the fire and the food. The trio sat around the fire with the girls sitting on either side of Naruto. Sylvie tasted the food and said, "This tasted good, sensei." Jiraiya smiled and replied, "It should." Naruto worked on the herbs for the seasoning. Even though he hasn't been able to taste since that incident with Sakura. He says it has only been a while, but time is relative in some things. Naruto had just taken a bite and was surprised that he could taste the food and it did taste good. He felt Sylvie lean into him and her ear brush against his. He smiled and ate another bite. He then thought, I might have actually found some people to trust other than Ba-chan and Sensei. He then said, "Yes, this does taste good." Jiraiya looked at the boy in astonishment and said, "Really? You've opened your heart again." Naruto nodded and suddenly he got 4 updates for shields. He then exclaimed, "I just got 4 new shields." Raftalia exclaimed, "That's great." Sylvie smiled and blushed. She then said, "I hope they will help all of us. Especially you, Master." She leaned up and kissed him on the cheek. That night was busy with both Jiraiya, Raftalia and Naruto learning the alphabet of this world and some basic words. Raftalia knew some words, but only the words, not necessarily the alphabet. Naruto also took off the brace and checked Sylvie's arm. He gently cleaned it and wrapped it. He then said, "It is healing well. The improvement in my chakra control and your improvement in chakra control and capacity is helping in the healing. I can run a basic diagnostic jutsu now. I can see that the bone is setting, but there are still too many micro fractures in the bone. Also, with you growing, the bone is healing better than expected. You should be fully healed in about 4 or 5 days. The arm will be weak, but we can fix that with some intense work, but nothing too much. We don't want to re-injure it." Jiraiya chuckled and said, "Bravo. You sound like a medical shinobi. I'm impressed. Keep up the studies and can you do the Rasengan with one hand?" Naruto raised his right hand and blue sphere began to form. He appeared to concentrate, but it wobbled for a second and then became stable. He then lifted his left hand. He repeated the same maneuver, but a little slower. He was sweating from the exertion. He then asked, "Is this good enough?" Jiraiya clapped and replied, "Much improved, but you need to make it combat ready. Keep up the good work, though. We have a couple weeks left. So, keep at it and you should also keep at the elemental work. From what the crone told me we can learn magic too, but it is expensive." Sylvie turned to Jiraiya and said, "Sensei, you've reverted to your native tongue. I'm getting the hang of it and can understand somewhat." Jiraiya sighed and replied as he reverted to the girl's native language, "Sorry, I will keep on trying to use your language." Sylvie shook her head and said, "No, it is fine. I would like to learn Naruto-sama's language. We will keep working on both being able to learn both languages. We can keep enemies guessing what we are talking about." During the next day's chakra training, Sylvie walked over to a tree and began to walk up the tree. She made it up 2 meters and then had to jump back to land on her feet. Naruto smiled and said, "I had problems with that one too. Just keep at it. I would run at it, but taking your time and making sure you have your footing is a good idea. Raftalia already has this down and is ready for water walking, but we also need to get her capacity up." Jiraiya smiled and shook his head. He then said, "You may surpass Kakashi as a sensei." Naruto then asked, "So what happened with him talking about me beating Sasuke?" Jiraiya chuckled and replied, "I asked Haim about that and she told me that the reports said nothing other than you had beaten him at the valley and Kakashi picked him up from you." He had then rushed him back to the village. When she asked him about Sakura, he gave her the short story and apparently, she jumped to conclusions. You were cleared by the investigation. Sasuke lost his license for several years and is just getting out of prison. Here's the funny part. Sakura asked for Harem to train her about 6 months after we left. Well, Harem remembered having to go back and fix you after the work she did from your mission. She wasn't happy. She told her flat out no, and she would have to get someone who had more time to help her to become stronger. She also told her that she was still on probation for attacking a fellow shinobi. Sakura was smart enough not to try and come up with some excuse of why she did it and just accepted punishment, since she had been on D rank missions for the last 6 months without being told a reason. She was given another 6 months probation for a total of a year. She has asked several Junin to train her, but only Kakashi has done so, and he isn't giving her much other than some genjutsu. Most of your class have made Chunin though, other than Sasuke and Sakura. Given what you're doing here, I might be able to get you a field promotion here. Now let me see that seal. Naruto nodded and sat down in front of Jiraiya. He lifted his shirt and made his chakra begin to flow. The seal showed on his stomach. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Naruto noticed and asked, "What?" Jiraiya replied, "There should have been some deterioration, but it seems to have been repaired somewhat for some reason. Might be the shield. Let's hope so. Just hope you don't get too emotional, or you might get too angry and release that beast upon this world." Naruto wore a worried look and said, "Let's hope not." Naruto rolled out 2 sleeping bags and laid down. Raftalia took his left side and Sylvie took his right. Each girl took one side of his chest and quickly fell asleep. Naruto sighed and smiled warmly. Jiraiya rolled his eyes at the children's antics. The group spent the next few days going towards loot. Along the way they found several paiku, a bird monster. They collected the feathers and the meat of the monsters. 2 days out from loot, Naruto made one last trip to the castle town in Erhard. He took all of the loot in a sealing scroll and left several clones. After getting to castle town and selling his wares at the shops under a henge, he went to Erhard's and purchased a short sword and shield for each of the girls along with a couple of leather plates. He also discussed a special purchase that Erhard said would be available later that day. He met with Belukas and purchased a fox girl. Naruto entered the tent and Belukas exclaimed, "Welcome back. My most favorite client. What are we looking for today?" Naruto replied, "I'm looking for a low-level mage." Belukas smiled his usual greedy smile and replied, "I have just what you need. She's a little on the lean side, but she is a mage." Naruto looked at the girl in the cage. She was a fox, but her fur was a dull silver. Her level showed to be 6. He could see her ribs through her skin, and she looked to be near death. Her health bar was a sickly green color and it was at about 2/3. He commented, "She looks sick and malnourished." "Yes, but she is the only mage that I have, period. I've fed her, but she hasn't responded too well. I'm guessing since you've helped those girls you have. I'm betting that you can help her too. I'll make you a deal. 1 gold, since she is a fox demi-human," Belukas asked. Naruto shook his head and replied, "No, I'll give you 75 with a 5 silver as the processing fee." Her eyes looked hopeful at the prospect of getting out of the cage. Belukas laughed and replied, "That is why you're my best customer. You can give me a good deal." "Deal. Let's get the paperwork finished and her transferred to you." He opened the cage. Naruto bent down and entered the cage. He picked her up bridal style and removed her from the cage. She felt light to him and barely there. They entered the inner tent for the seal for transferring the slave seal. Naruto held her while Belukas did the transfer process. Naruto sat her down on a chair and paid the man. He broke the shackles and took the girl out of the tent. He gave her a pill and a potion. She had a problem swallowing the pill, but just after it went down with the potion, she began to glow. Her health bar turned to the regular color, and moved to about 3/4. He went to a clothier and bought a dress and some undergarments that should fit her. He then went to a bath house. He took off his clothes and then took off her clothes. She didn't fight him. He washed her and noticed that she didn't fight him, but he didn't say anything. He rinsed her off and then cleaned himself off and then took her into the bath. She was stiff while she lay against him in the bath. After about 10 minutes in the bath, she fell asleep. After another 5 minutes he lifted her out of the bath and dried her off. He dressed her in the new clothes and himself. He then carried her to a tavern and she woke to the smell of food. He had already ordered food for the two of them. He smiled at her and said, "Good afternoon, sleepyhead. Did the bath feel good?" She asked, "Did I please you, master?" Naruto replied, "Nothing happened. Other than you getting some sleep. You need some food and then we can discuss your job." The food was put on the table and the waiter said, "Here you go." Naruto replied, "Thank you." He turned to the girl and said, "Go ahead and eat. I would also like to know your name." She took a couple bites and replied, "Millie. Am I to be a concubine?" Naruto shook his head and replied, "No, you are a mage and are going to help me and my party. I will fill you in more when we reach the rest of the party. My name is Naruto. That is all I can say for now. Now eat. We are going to get you some books for learning magic and whatever you need." She looked up at him in confusion and asked, "Why?" Naruto smiled warmly and replied, "Because I need you. Also, my team needs you, but I need you." She then looked down at what she was wearing and said, "You bought me new clothes." Naruto smiled and replied, "Yep, and Ino told me how to buy clothes for girls. I hope she was right. Do you not remember going into the store to buy them?" She smiled weakly and replied, "They are nice. I'm sorry master, I don't remember." She then continued to eat. She then asked, "Why the bath?" Naruto replied, "You needed it. Sorry if it made you feel uncomfortable, but it was easier to take one with you than to just get wet and bathe you." She shook her head and said, "You are my master and thus you own me. You can do what you want with my body." Naruto scowled and lifted her chin to look at her and said, "I may be your master, but that doesn't mean that I can have my way with you. We will talk about this later. Eat some more, but not too fast, since your body isn't used to eating and is malnourished. We'll go to the magic shop next and get the books. After that we will get you some battle accessories or armor." She nodded as she finished the food and replied, "As you wish master." Naruto left the money for the meals on the table and helped Millie up and out of the tavern. They entered the magic shop and the old lady there was amiable. She asked, "What can I do for you?" Millie replied, "Can you test my master's affinity?" She smiled and replied, "Why yes. Just touch this crystal ball." Naruto touched the ball and continued, "You have rare affinity for healing and support magic. Your turn, young lady." Millie touched the crystal ball and she explained, "You have the affinity for fire and illusion, not surprising, since you're a half fox. Now you wanted to buy some books." Naruto nodded his head and replied, "Yes, how much would a grimoire be?" The lady smiled and replied, "Basic books would be about 1 to 2 gold pieces depending on the type of magic. For the higher levels it can cost up to 15 or more gold. A crystal ball can be up to 50 gold. Naruto grimaced and replied, "I would like a fire and a healing grimoire please." The woman smiled and replied, "That will be 2 gold." Naruto sighed and pulled out 2 gold coins. The woman placed the books on the counter. He then said, "Thank you." He then put them into his pack. He and Millie then went to Erhard's shop and got her a battle dress especially for her being a mage. Erhard teased, "Are you creating a harem of young girls?" Naruto shook his head and replied, "No, just happen to be only girls that I've had the choices to get. Yes, they are slaves, but better to get slaves and make their lives easier than to have them die, because they are neglected." Erhard smiled and said, "You've got a good heart. She's looking on the light side, isn't she?" Naruto nodded and replied, "Yeah, she was sick and malnourished when I got her. She isn't sick anymore, but I figure we can fix the malnourishment by the time the wave gets here." Erhard smiles and says, "You've got a lot of cuties on your hands." Naruto blushed and replied, they are all dear to me. I'm hoping that Millie will become dear to me too. Millie came out of the dressing room wearing her battle dress and staff. She also had a dagger at her side. Erhard smiled and said, looking great little miss. Naruto then turned to Erhard and asked, you got those special orders? Erhard nodded and replied, glad your clone cleared up that letter. I can't read your native language. He pulled out a box and opened it. He then explained, 50 of those kunai things and 100 of those shuriken things that you and Jiraiya use. Per your request. Full order 35 silver. I'm working on more for you guys for when the wave arrives. Naruto smiled and replied, worth every silver. Thanks for making more. He pulled out a bag of silver and placed it down on the counter. He then said, only about 1 gold and 90 silver left. Got to get some more to get ready for the wave, since we have a little over 2 weeks left. Knowing the girls, they will want me to upgrade my armor when I return. Erhard then explained, you understand how to adjust the plates for the girls? Naruto nodded and replied, yes, and thanks again. Erhard chuckled and replied, no problem, be careful and come back. Naruto nodded and sealed the box away. He then bent down and bade Millie to mount his back. She tentatively got on his back and they left the town. As soon as they left the town, the speed increased massively. Naruto had to use chakra to stick Millie to himself. Millie seemed quiet during the trip back. The piggyback ride back to the camp at a speed that was both exhilarating and scary. Naruto arrived in the late afternoon with Millie. He showed her a place for her in camp. He explained, Millie, you can sleep anywhere you like within the camp. I will not use the slave crest to order you. I'm not that type, but please do not run off since you're not strong enough to defend yourself right now. I may be your owner, but that doesn't mean I'm going to abuse that privilege. You're a valuable member of my team. Your level is lower than the others right now and we need to rise to meet the level of the others. We also have some different training that we do other than the standard training. Now that we have a mage, we will be using you to help train us in magic. If you notice the extra bar that you lack from the others. She nodded and he continued, that is chakra. We use it in ways that will help us in the waves. I will now explain. I'm the shield hero. Her eyes went wide, and he saw admiration and the fear that was in them disappeared. He went on, as the shield hero. I can only defend, well sort of. I have a trick up my sleeve and it is clones that are solid and can do damage. That is the reason I have a weapon on my side. With your help we will learn magic and be more diverse and stronger than before. As you can see, we are sitting at about level 10. We've worked hard for those levels and you will too. We work as a team and will help you along. I will make sure that you're fed and we will work through any fear that you have. Do you have any questions? She nodded meekly and asked, are you going to take me as a concubine? Naruto sighed and replied, I'm not worried about right now. While you are pretty and will become even more beautiful. We have more to worry about that whether I get lucky with you or the other girls. I didn't buy you for that purpose. You have skills that I need. I will eventually set you free. If you want to be with me later on, that is up to you. Work hard and I'll protect you. I promise. She smiled and said, thank you Naruto-sama. I will serve you to the best of my abilities. She bowed deeply. A deep voice caused her to turn and run behind Naruto. It exclaimed, got another girl. Naruto sighed and replied, yeah, she is a mage and has some skills. We start her on the initial stages of chakra training tomorrow. Oh, by the way, I will need to see your stomach to get your chakra started. She sighed and replied, as my master. If you need me to strip, then that is what I will do. Since you've already seen me. Sylvie giggled and said, you can, but he gets embarrassed when you do that. He likes it, but gets embarrassed. Naruto blushed and exclaimed, Sylvie-chan. Jiraiya took a thinking pose and said, this one looks a little bit skimpy to me. Naruto replied, she was sick and is malnourished. I've already took care of the sickness and the malnourishment will take time. So tomorrow we will be working on chakra and spells. Alright Millie, we will get to starting your chakra. Sylvie helped Millie out of her battle dress and helped her lay down on the sleeping bags. She moved the undergarments away from Millie's navel. Naruto's hand became engulfed in a blue flame. He touched her stomach and she bucked at the touch. She screamed in pleasure and pain. After she passed out a minute later, Naruto did switched shields and did several hand signs. He ran his hand over the girl and smiled warmly. He looked at his status screen and saw that Millie now had a slowly filling chakra bar. The next morning was the usual training schedule with a clone of Jiraiya giving Millie instruction on chakra. Breakfast was an interesting affair for Millie, since she watched Naruto fix the food and Sylvie and Raftalia swoon over the food. Jiraiya laughed at the girl's antics. Millie got an actual smile at what was going on. The group went hunting and found several monsters to hunt. This helped all of them to level, especially Millie, who got a better boost from Naruto's slave shield than the other girls, since the monsters were becoming under-leveled and giving lower experience. After dinner the group worked on learning written language and spoken for Jiraiya. Naruto did a diagnostic on both Sylvie and Millie before bed. Both girls were improving. The sleeping arrangements were similar to before, with Millie sleeping close to the trio, but in another sleeping bag. The next day the group entered loot and Jiraiya moved off from the group. He was given a book and more instructions before he departed. Naruto and the girls entered the village and entered the market. They found a couple vendors and sold their wares for about 20 silver. Naruto then asked one vendor, "Is there a way to make more money fairly quickly?" The vendor replied, "While looking at the mountain, the mine has some valuable ore in it, but it is infested with monsters. I don't know what our glorious heroes are doing, but until the mines are cleared out, mining can't continue. I'm sure, if you clear out the mines, that the mayor and the lord of the town will pay handsomely for anything that you bring out." Naruto smiled and said, "Thanks for the information." The man waved and replied, "No problem. Have a good day, kid." Naruto and the girls came upon the mining camp and scoured the area. He found some abandoned pipes and the shield glowed. Shrugging his shoulders and fed them to the shield and got the pipe shield, with a skill of shield prison. He smiled in glee for finding a new shield. He then found a shed with more supplies. He picked up a pickaxe and the shield again glowed. He chuckled darkly and again fed the shield. This time he acquired the pickaxe shield, with the skill, mining skill +1. He picked up some rope and again the shield glowed. He began to laugh and fed the shield the rope. He acquired the rope shield, with the skill, air strike shield. The girls came to the shed and Sylvie asked, "Is everything alright, Naruto-sama?" Naruto changed shields and pointed his arm. He then put his arm up and exclaimed, "Air strike shield." A green translucent shield appeared before him. He then exclaimed, "Never better. Never better." He grabbed a couple pickaxes and handed one to Raftalia and held the other himself. He then made a familiar hand sign and exclaimed, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." 3 Narutos appeared in the shack. The original handed Sylvie a torch. Millie exclaimed, "So cool." Raftalia replied, "I know. Right. I want to do that, too." Naruto then said, "Alright, the clones are guards. Raftalia and I are to be the miners. Sylvie and Millie are to be support." The group replied, "Yes sir." The group then entered the mine. Naruto changed his shield to the pickaxe shield. After a while of walking, they entered a magnificent cave with lots of crystals. Naruto and Raftalia began to mine the ore. Naruto put the first ore into his shield and got another new shield. The light metal shield, with a skill of defense +1. He found some other ores and was able to get some chunks of them too, thus getting shields for them too. The ores were iron, copper, silver, and lead. Lead was a defense up, copper and iron were smelting, while silver was a damage reduction from demons. He thought to himself, "I'm getting too lucky. There has to be a catch." He then heard Raftalia drop her pickaxe and silently exclaim, "Dog monster." Over and over. The two-headed dog was level 15 while the group minus Millie were level 11. It would be a fairly even fight if they were a regular party. Naruto changed shields to the rope shield and toe of his clones disappeared. The dog monster charged at Raftalia. She screamed and Naruto exclaimed, "Air Strike Shield." A transparent green shield appeared before Raftalia and blocked the dog's path. Sylvie charged the dog and hit with her sword just below the ribcage and backed off. Millie then exclaimed, "As source of thy power, decipher the laws of nature and burn my target." First fire arrow. An arrow made of fire appeared and shot at the dog, hitting it. The dog yelps in pain at the attacks. Raftalia is still in shock from seeing the dog. Naruto is now wrapping an arm around the girl and the clones that disappeared suddenly appear just below the necks of each dog head and thrust upwards. Each kunai finds its mark and the dog whimpers for a second and then collapses. Raftalia is still frightened of the dog, but the clones begin to butcher it. Naruto asks, "Was it the one that attacked your village?" Raftalia shook her head into his chest and replied, "No. It had 3 heads, but I'm still scared." Naruto rubbed her back and slowly walked her over to the dead monster. He then said, "As the shield hero and as Naruto Uzumaki, I will protect you. You and Sylvie will be my swords and Millie will be my mage. We will also try to make sure that other children don't see a wave cause this type of fear happen to them. When you're ready, let me know what happened and we'll talk about it." He then smiled and said, "Take your sword out and stab it. I know it is dead, but at least it will be symbolic." "Where am I getting these words?" Raftalia smiled and wiped away the tears. She pulled out her sword and wearily approached the monster. She then stabbed the monster. Tears again began to flow and she began to stab the dead creature again and again and again, while screaming and crying. Naruto quickly wrapped her with a hug and she dropped the sword. She weakly said, "I'm sorry." He smiled and said, "There is no need to be sorry. There is a lot of pent-up anger, fear, and other emotions. We will work on those as best as we can. Now let me feed this monster to my shield and we can move on to harvesting some more ore." Raftalia squeezed tighter and shook her head. She pleaded and asked, "A little longer, please." Naruto smiled and replied, "Of course." Millie looked at Sylvie and asked, "Is Master so caring about his slaves?" Sylvie replied, "He loves his slaves. Not in a perverted way, but in a familial way. I want to be his mate, but he is also hurting and wants to have us grow before he can work on that part of our lives. Also, we have waves of catastrophe to deal with. If you come to love Naruto the way I do, then that is fine, but if you find another, I'm sure that he will let you go to them when we are done." Millie became contemplative. She then looked at Naruto hugging Raftalia warmly and comforting the girl, as she looked at the monster. His clones continued to butcher the monster. After a little bit, the Raftalia let Naruto go and he began to feed the monster to his shield. He smiled and changed his shield to an iron shield with 2 dog heads on it. He then changed it back to the mining shield and finished feeding the monster to his shield. The group continued to mine for several hours more. The group was now at the inn and had a large amount of food in front of them. Naruto then exclaimed, "Good job everyone. With the clearing of the dog monster and the ore that we recovered, we got a good amount of money. So, eat up and we'll go hunting in the morning."